Coming up in today's newscast, our good friend, colleague, husband, and father of four, Ari Fuld, is laid to rest. The Paul Manafort investigation makes its way to Israel, and an Israeli-Ethiopian filmmaker takes top prize in Toronto. It's with a heavy heart that we say one final goodbye to pro-Israel activist and longtime ILTV contributor Ari Fuld. Fuld was the victim of yesterday's terror attack outside a shopping mall in the West Bank, where he was fatally stabbed by a 17-year-old Palestinian terrorist. Late last night, hundreds, if not thousands, gathered to mourn Fuld at his funeral, which was held at the Gush Etzion cemetery. News of Ari's death has gathered mourners near and far. Top European, American, Israeli, and UN leaders have all passed along their condolences to Ari's family. Ari was a father of four who served in the IDF before coming to be known as a fierce pro-Israel activist with the NGO Standing Together. As many of you know, he was also a well-known media figure and frequently contributed to ILTV for many years as a correspondent in the field, an expert guest, and as the co-host of our Frenemies show. That's his professional life, but as a testament to his personal life and conviction, even his final act before death summed up the kind of man that he was. After being fatally stabbed in the upper body by his attacker, Fuld managed to pull out his handgun and shoot the fleeing terrorist before collapsing to the ground himself to prevent a similar fate from befalling anyone else.
One word that would typify him, it would be that word of Gibor. He was a hero to all. He took such pride in you children. Jewels of his life.
United States Ambassador to Israel David Friedman praised this final act, calling Fuld an American patriot. Similar statements were issued by Israel's French and EU ambassadors, along with echoes from Israeli President Reuven Rivlin and Prime Minister Netanyahu, who paid a personal visit to Fuld's family shortly before his funeral late last night. This is a truly difficult goodbye to a cherished friend. Now, one of the hardest parts of losing someone isn't just feeling the loss, but living in a way that honors the memory of those we've lost, learning from what they stood for, and adapting what made them great to our own lives. Joining me now in the studio to help us do just that is Rabbi Dov Lipman, former Knesset member of the Yesh Atid party and a longtime friend to Ari Fuld. Rabbi, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And yeah, why don't you just share with us, a little bit about what you're feeling and what happened?
Sure, it's obviously very difficult to talk. Ari was passionate. Anybody who watched him on ILTV or elsewhere saw he was a man of conviction. He believed in his truths 100% and wasn't going to leave you alone until he convinced you of that fact. And that was out of his passion and love for Israel, the state of Israel, the Jewish people. But the amazing thing, and this is what everyone has to learn from, is he could be involved in the fiercest debate. I mean fierce. He's hammering you. When it's over, it's love you, bro. And he'd shake your hand, and he'd take you out for coffee, and it was not personal. And that's something which in today's world we have lost. We have allowed ideological and political debates to become personal, to rip people apart. And here's a man who was the most passionate, the strongest minded, and expressed it. And then was able to put that aside and love a fellow Jew and love a fellow human being. And that's something which we all certainly have to learn from.
And I'm glad you said that, because that is something that I think I always took away from him, is that, even when we disagreed politically, and we did here and there, he never took it out of the studio. It was in here, and that was it. It was at the table. It was in discussion. It was never a personal attack. It was never, I disagree with you, you're dumb. It was always just, I believe you're wrong, and here's why, and afterwards, bygones are bygones, and that's it.
And he wouldn't let go of you until he tried to convince otherwise. And also, I have to be honest with you, he was prepared. He had facts. It wasn't sound bites. It wasn't an empty ideology. If you were going to debate Ari, you had to be prepared. You had to know your facts and figures. And I'll be honest with you, he definitely swayed me more than once on various issues because of his complete understanding of the issues based on facts and figures, and not just some kind of a hyped up hyperbole or ideology.
I feel like a lot of people, lately in the news and the media, we've seen a lot, even here on ILTV, we've seen a lot of footage of Ari, and again, people are going to be scrutinizing him and looking at his Facebook posts and his videos and things like that. So the people who are looking at him and maybe not, and maybe didn't know him though, who are going to be critical, who are going to say, oh, you know, he was just another settler, just another this, just another that, what would you say?
First of all, they should watch the footage of the funeral and see that he was a husband, see that he was a father, see children talking about how their father played with them and cared so much about the regular things in their lives. We have to remember, people are people. There's the ideologies, you can disagree with them, but then they're human beings.
Not monolithic.
That's right, and he was a son, and he was balanced, as they talked about last night, had an interest in many, many things. And you looked at the room last night of thousands of people from all across Israeli society crying in pain over the loss of the human being. And I think that's what Ari ultimately reminded us. And by the way, what was driving Ari in all his ideologies was his love for fellow Jews and his care for their security and his passion for our future. He had no political ambitions. He wasn't pushing an agenda. He wasn't making money off of this. It was, he loved everyone, and everything that he said came from that love for God, love for Israel, love for fellow Jews, love for humanity. And the harshness that people will see in statements, in videos, and everything else, understand that that's where it's coming from, and also understand that when it's all said and done, at the end of the day, he would take out the person in the polar extreme, ideologically, and give them a hug, and give them a love you bro, which was his standard. And that's something which we all have to remind ourselves of, and that's, I believe, ultimately his legacy.
Rabbi, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
All right, 17-year-old Khalil Youssef Ali Jabarin has been identified as the terrorist who fatally stabbed Ari Fuld, and just hours after mourners gathered to grieve the loss of Ari Fuld at his funeral in Gush Etzion, IDF forces raided the Palestinian village where his killer, Jabarin, lived. What's worse, though, is that troubling reports have also now surfaced suggesting that the killer's parents actually warned IDF and Palestinian police forces ahead of time that their son was intending to carry out a terror attack. The IDF has confirmed that Jabarin's mother did, in fact, report to soldiers at the Meitar military checkpoint near their home, telling soldiers that their son had disappeared and intended to commit a terror attack. At the same time, Jabarin's father, who had had an argument with his son mere hours earlier, told Palestinian police that his son had disappeared and may be a risk. Both sides apparently mobilized to question other relatives, but as we know, those plans ultimately came far too late. Jabarin committed his terror attack around noon yesterday, stabbing Fuld in the back before being shot by Fuld and other armed civilians shortly thereafter. IDF security teams raided the village of Yatta late last night, searching the home of Jabarin and measuring it for a planned demolition in the wake of the attack. The Palestinian mayor of Yatta issued a statement condemning his resident for committing an act of terror, but with many across the world mourning Fuld's death, clearly this is a pain that won't be diminished by mere words alone. Returning now to the studio on how these lone wolf attacks seemingly continue to grow in number and what Israel can do to stop it is Dr. Mordechai Kedar, expert on the Middle East from the Begin Sadat Center at Bar-Ilan University. So, that's my first question. What can we do really to stem the tide of lone wolf attacks?
Well, there is what to do, but to hope that it will be 100% success, this is too much. What do I mean? The ease comes out of the fact that in order to carry out such an attack, you don't have to prepare explosives, you don't have to
I mean, you
do
can
anything.
pull a knife from the
You just
shopping
take-
mall you go bought it at and
You take
walk
it from
outside and
your
do
mother's
something.
kitchen.
Sure.
And you take it to them and you stab people and you kill them. So it's very easily to carry it out. Then, in Israel, we are liberal. They can go wherever they like. They go to Gush Etzion, they can go wherever they want. And a youngster, 16 or 17 years old, looks very innocent. Who would think that this man or this boy is actually an attacker? So this is more or less the question, what do you do with this? Profiling cannot work. Now, there is something which I would say shared by 100% of the attackers is the social media. They are there. In many cases, they say, they write, they hint ahead of time that, yes, they are preparing something. And there are signs that they are actually preparing something. This can be detected. This can be found out. And I think that Israel does what it has to do in the social media, especially Facebook and Twitter. Not easy, yet doable.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because, again, going back to our last story, apparently Jabarin's parents approached both the Palestinian Authority police and the IDF and warned them that such an attack was about to occur. They said that their son was about ready to carry it out.
The mother came to outpost of the army and told them what should have been is a phone number, easy, 5555555, for example, that you can call and say whatever you like. This should have been, and everybody should know the number. This should be announced.
And that would have helped more than her simply, walking into the station.
Yes, it takes time. It takes time. Imagine that instead of going to the street and start looking for the IDF soldiers, and instead start talking to them until they understand what she wants.
Sure, but we're talking about how they, by then, had already had the clues and they were taking it.
And she calls them.
But you were talking about looking at clues online and friends and things like that. I mean, the clues were there enough that the parents could identify it.
Look, by the way, they did identify. As you know, she was suspicious that he is preparing something. And he disappeared a few hours earlier, and she was suspicious enough to go to complain because she wants her home not be demolished. So,
by the way, why are we demolishing a home when they're coming forward and clearly
apparently it is effective because, as you know, there was a few months ago a case where parents, father, came to the IDF and gave in his son or the information that his son is preparing, and the son was caught because the father was afraid of the home, although they rebuilt it with the help of others. But this is, I think, what should be done in addition to other things.
So as a deterrence, you're saying that it works, but I'm saying that, they came forward and they're still going to demolish the home.
Look, I don't know what will be in this particular case, but generally, the fact that Israel demolishes the home of attacker or terrorist, this works. Maybe not 100%, yet it was enough that even one man was saved, so it should be done.
All right, Dr. Kedal, thank you so much for coming in.
No problem.
In a shocking turn of events, United States President Donald Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, has officially entered into a plea agreement as guilty with the FBI on conspiracy charges. As part of this deal, he has agreed to provide special counsel Robert Mueller with information on his former boss, President Trump, as it relates to the ongoing investigation into Trump's alleged collusion with Russia to win the 2016 election. But according to prosecutors' indictment papers, Manafort has already named a, quote, senior Israeli official from the government as one of his co-conspirators in illicit work he did for a former leader of Ukraine.
It's a tough day for Mr. Manafort, but he's accepted responsibility, and he wanted to make sure that his family was able to remain safe and live a good life. He's accepted responsibility, and this is for conduct that dates back many years, and everybody should remember that. So thank you, everyone.
The indictment was filed with the courts shortly before the weekend, at which time the details first became public. It accuses Manafort of working with an anonymous Israeli official at the top tier of the government in a conspiracy to benefit the then president of Ukraine's pro-Russia party, Viktor Yanukovych. He was registered as a client of Paul Manafort at the time, and this conspiracy is said to include spreading false allegations that a political opponent was anti-Semitic. The conspiracy also included false stories of anti-Semitism targeting then United States President Barack Obama in an effort to pressure Obama into aligning with Manafort's pro-Russia client. Now, here in Israel, accusations regarding the identity of the unnamed senior Israeli government official have already begun to fly. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman has already come out denying that he was involved with the scandal at all, and Lieberman is demanding that the Justice Ministry obtain the identity from the United States government in an effort to clear his name. But officials close to Lieberman have reportedly already named other potential suspects anyway. One name that comes up is current Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, who was a Likud Knesset member at the time of these charges and spoke on the record to Ukraine's ambassador about anti-Semitic allegations. But at this point, this is purely speculative. More and more Knesset members are also demanding that Netanyahu obtain the true identity of Manafort's collaborator. Manafort has pled guilty to conspiracy against the United States, as well as a slew of money laundering and obstruction of justice charges, after being found guilty of 8 other fraud charges last month. President Trump has said that Manafort is a good man despite his criminal convictions, and that the charges are unrelated to the Russia investigation. But given that Manafort will now provide the FBI with intel on the lead-up to Trump's election, this may all be a matter for the courts to decide soon. If you've heard of Probiotics, then you're probably one of many who have always heard that they're a really good thing for you. Since the 1980s, experts have widely assumed that certain microorganisms, dubbed probiotics or good bacteria, have positive health benefits when introduced into the body. Well, a new Israeli study is here to completely rain on that parade. Turns out that not only are probiotics not necessarily helpful, some of them are downright harmful.
Yeah, so this is pretty bad news for anyone who regularly takes probiotic supplements on a daily basis. You heard me right, folks. That entire row of allegedly healthy probiotic vitamins and additives might actually be completely useless. You know that old wives' tale that Greek yogurt is extra healthy for you because it contains good bacteria? Well, Israeli scientists at the Weizmann Institute of Science say otherwise. In a multi-stage study conducted across numerous strains of probiotics and human subjects, their research confirmed that most strains have practically zero impact on the human body. Researchers painstakingly introduced human test subjects to 11 strains of probiotics, giving them a long enough exposure for the strains to fully colonize their gut's microbiome. Each subject then required a regular colonoscopy to get a complete picture of exactly what the biological impact was. Well, the results were almost the same across the board, including in test subjects that only received placebos. That means that the idea of a kind of universal probiotic cure-all is pretty much right out the window. On top of that, certain strains actually replace necessary microbes that the human body naturally produces, which could lead to a long-term series of health problems if the probiotics were to be regularly ingested. Last year, the probiotic industry, which claims to relieve anything and everything from allergies and stomach problems to the common cold, was valued at roughly $40 billion worldwide. Well, that number may soon come crashing down now with actual cures on the way, thanks to good old-fashioned Israeli science.
All right, now, in case you haven't been keeping up, reality star Kim Kardashian has just inked a deal with our very own Bar Raffaelli for her part-owned eyewear brand Carolina Lemke. And that is as they try to make their mark in the United States. AlTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has a scoop.
Yes, Aaron, that's right. Kim Kardashian has signed on to be an active partner in the Carolina Lemke eyewear brand, which our very own, like you said, Israeli model Bar Raffaelli is part owner of. Kim will supposedly hold 10% of the company's U.S. holdings, as well as also reportedly receiving 5% of the proceeds from her upcoming collection. And on top of all that, she will star in future campaigns alongside her friend and now business partner Bar Raffaelli.
All right, well, this is pretty big news for the brand. They definitely chose one of the more influential people to partner up with in the United States if they wanted to make a true impact. So how did this all go down?
Right. Well, first off, I was shocked with the news when we saw Bar Raffaelli's Instagram post on Wednesday, where she wrote, quote, "Friends and now partners. Kim Kardashian joined my Carolina Lemke Berlin family. Welcome, my love." So that was pretty clear-cut and exciting, and reportedly worth a casual $30 million deal. And now reports are also saying that along with that, the megastar will be visiting Israel this upcoming March as part of the collaboration, and will also be designing her own sunglass line as part of the limited edition series.
Sounds totally casual.
So casual, 30 million, you know.
But okay, but besides that, this isn't the first time that Kim's been to Israel, and
right.
And not only that, it's not her first time that Kim has worked with Israeli models.
Right, that's actually so exciting. You really are keeping up with the Kardashians, Aaron. You know everything.
You know it.
Kim actually hired the teenage Israeli model Yael Shelbia to be the face of her new makeup line, KKW Beauty, this past summer. And not just that, Kardashian also partnered up with the Israeli-American fashion app Screen Shop, which I actually interviewed. So it isn't the first and hopefully not the last time Kim's going to be collaborating with some of, Israel's best. And I can't wait to see the new Carolina Lemke Kardashian designs.
All right, well, hopefully I'll be able to find something in the new line that fits me too, something in my size and my style. Until the release date, though, I'll expect you to keep me updated.
Of course.
Thanks for the report, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
The Toronto International Film Festival just wrapped up its awards ceremony last night, and this is one of the biggest film events of the year and usually a big indicator of who's going to win an Oscar nomination. Well, Israel may have already picked its entry to the foreign film category for next year's Oscars, but a new contender has just emerged. The director of Israel's newest film, Fig Tree, just snagged the coveted Best Female Director Award at Toronto, and that's a lot of buzz for a movie that isn't even out yet.
Israeli-Ethiopian director Alamor Marsha won the Audentia Prize in the Toronto International Film Festival for her movie Fig Tree, a film about young love in the midst of an Ethiopian civil war. Uniquely, the director said that she told a story that's parallel to her own life and in which she draws from her own childhood experiences growing up in Ethiopia. The 93-minute film, which is in Amharic with translation to Hebrew and English, is an emotional drama. Fig Tree tells the story of a 14-year-old Jewish girl named Mina dating her Christian boyfriend Eli. But tensions erupt as the community frantically tries to hide any boys or young men that soldiers fighting a civil war could kidnap. Meanwhile, Mina discovers that her family is planning to immigrate to Israel and escape the war that is closing in on her and her friends and her family. So she seeks to save Eli, who she fears will be kidnapped by the Ethiopian army. The prize for the film was a €30,000 award given by the European foundation Euroimages, which was slated for the best movie of the year directed by a woman. Fig Tree was filmed in Ethiopia and featured people from the war itself, as well as amateur actors from their native scene in Addis Ababa. But it's still a masterpiece. So what does the future hold for this talented director? Marsha's future plans include a documentary about the gentrification of an Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel, and she's also writing a feature about an Ethiopian Jewish girl searching for a father she thought long dead. So keep your eyes peeled for these blockbusters.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day, inspired by the movie Fig Tree that won the prestigious Audentia Prize in the Toronto Film Festival this week. Our Hebrew word of the day is fig or te'ena. If you want a sweet and juicy fruit in the summer, te'enim or figs are your ideal choice. A fig or te'ena has a sweet, dark flesh with an abundance of seeds, and a te'ena can be eaten fresh or dried. So if you've got a sweet tooth confronted by years of health-conscious New Year's resolutions, remember that the te'ena has your back. And now a view of the weather forecast. Tonight should be clear to partly cloudy and warm with a low of 75 or 24 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow you can expect clear and sunny skies with a slight rise in temperatures to a high of about 87 or 31 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.58 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you for watching. Now please stay tuned for a short tribute to Ari Fuld, sent to us by the Government Press Office.
Welcome to Israeli Frenemies, broadcasted out of the beautiful city of Tel Aviv, Israel.
Hi Iran, Ari Fuld here. I'm on the border of Gaza in a kibbutz in the area.
Ari Fuld, the assistant director of Standing Together. Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning, everyone. Ari Fuld here. I am right in front of the site of the new embassy, the new U.S. embassy right here in Jerusalem. I have in my hand one piece of shrapnel. This place is covered in these small pieces of shrapnel. This happened at 7:30 in the morning, just minutes before kids and parents arrived here for their day in school.
No.
Why no? You don't want to talk about the issue?
I'm not going to allow you to say false things. It's time to stop playing diplomacy when truth is on the line. 23 years of IDF.
You as an idea, you know.
No. You can't throw idiotic things out. Laugh all you want. You're laughing. It doesn't help facts. It's historical facts. The majority of the people living in Gaza voted for a genocidal radical Islamic terrorist organization who sees both you and me being dead as their goal. That is the source of the problem. Abbas says, I will not recognize a Jewish state. You can't keep on making up these things. But again, I'm Jewish, and my only right to this country, by the way, is the fact that I'm Jewish. That's all it is. And the idea of apartheid, this is terrible, is what the worst of Israel's enemies say. There's no apartheid. We have 20% of non-Jewish equal citizens in this country. It's terrible to use that language. The right to Israel is because we're Jewish.
Not because there is a state of Israel.
What right do you have to come to an area that wasn't yours? There's an unfortunate situation in Gaza right now. And I say unfortunate because anybody who's in there who's innocent is paying the price of this horrific, terrible war.
I am just standing in one area in a kindergarten where Hamas was aiming to murder Israeli Jewish children. This is Ari Fuld on the beautiful hills of Jerusalem, Israel, the eternal capital of the Jewish state. I'll be on and off all day long, so definitely stay tuned. Share it out, everyone. God bless. Take care.